Hey guys, welcome back. This is Crash Course Buyer's Consultation. Not to be confused with Crash Course Invite to the Buyer's Consult. You see all the hard work you did to get them here. The last thing we want to do is drop the ball because we kind of sound blah, 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 blah. So I want to go over exactly how to do a buyer's consultation. I've been doing these, I've done hundreds of buyer's consultations. I've kind of come up with a system that works the best and actually executes. There's a couple key components we're going to get to. So what I'm going to do is actually role play my buyer's consultation with the most difficult and challenging client I've ever had, a high C-S personality, Mr. Nolan Robinson. And then I'm going to kind of break down some of the aspects of why we do it. If you open up your scripts packet, you can actually kind of follow along. We're going to keep it brief and short, but still hit all the components. The way we actually have the buyer's consultation almost verbatim in the scripts packet is because one of the gals that worked on the team about a couple years ago, she actually came in, sat in a buyer's consult I did, and she just recorded the whole thing on her phone. She went home that night, spent 2.5 hours transcribing it. She said she learned best by kind of writing it out, and she memorized and did buyer's consults exactly that I did. I then sat in on her buyer's consult, and it was so good, we've now kind of made it mandatory that you begin to not have this as rote memorized, but you hit all these components. So you can just follow along with the buyer's consult. I'm going to just do it in one thorough, once all the way through with Nolan, and then I'll explain how we do it, okay? Fair? Here we go. Nolan, thanks for coming into the office.
Oh, thanks for having me in here.
Glad you found us okay.
Yeah, it wasn't that hard.
Can I get you some iced tea, coffee, water?
I'm good.
Okay, great. Well, let's get right to it. My intention is to spend about 45 minutes with you today. We'll spend the first 15 to 20 minutes of the meeting, and I want to answer all the questions you have for me. And then we'll spend the next 15, 20 minutes, and you'll answer some of my questions. At the end of the consult, we'll decide if we're going to be a good fit for one another, and at that point, we'll decide if we should work together. How's that sound?
Sounds great.
Great. So, Nolan, what questions do you have for me?
I did actually have a couple of questions.
Sure.
First of all, I'm wondering about how long is it going to take for us to find a house, and when we do find a house, how long is it going to take for us to close and actually be able to move in?
Sure. So how long it'll take to find a house? Great question. And how long it'll take before you can move in? That's another great question, right?
And then also just about commissions. How much am I going to be paying you?
Oh, great question. Great question. Commission structure and how agents get paid. Perfect. Any other questions?
That's all I can think of right now.
Okay, great. Well, so let me go ahead, and if any of these questions I don't address in detail, you please stop me and we'll answer them right away, okay?
Okay.
All right. So I like for my clients to be absolutely as informed as I am. I want you to leave here with a wealth of information. I believe that if I add the most value, you'll choose to hire me to be your agent. So the first thing I have for you here, it's the 8 steps of home buying. Are you a reader, Nolan?
I am.
Are you pretty thorough in the materials that you cover?
Usually I am.
Okay, great. So this is the 8 steps of home buying. Just take it home. It's going to kind of cover, it's going to give a synopsis of what we're going to talk about today. I want you to have that. The second thing I want to give you is the law of real estate agency. This is all of your rights that you have and my obligations as your real estate agent. If I was to give this to you, would you read it?
I would.
Okay, great. Great. I'm going to send that over to you. And lastly, I'm going to be using a lot of words and terms that I want you to be familiar with. Appraisal, TRID. I want you to be as familiar with the process as I am. So I've come up with a glossary of terms. If ever I use a word that you don't quite understand, you can find it in here. Will you read this if I give it to you?
Yes.
Outstanding. Okay. So would it be helpful if I went over the home buying process?
Of course.
All right. So here's the first role. Select a real estate agent. Good job. I think you chose wisely. Obtain financial pre-approval. That's what you're doing with the mortgage broker of choice. Analyze your needs in a buyer's consultation. It's where we're at today. It's right where we're sitting. We're going to select properties to view. We're going to go out and view those properties. We're going to say, let's pay X. The seller may or may not counter and say, what about Y? Eventually, we're all going to agree to the terms of the offer. We'll call it Z. See, I say, take this piece of paper home. I want you to put this on your refrigerator. In fact, I'm going to put a big asterisk right here. You see, we're not committed to the property whatsoever when they accept the offer. Heck, we're not even really committed when we write up the offer. Based on the terms of the inspection contingency, we have 10 days to walk away for any reason. So, Nolan, I expect that we're going to put in offers. We'll probably submit an offer the very first time we go out. It doesn't mean that we're going to buy that house. It just means we want to be first in line to take our ticket so that we have 10 days to decide if we're going to buy it. If everything goes well, 30 days after the offer is accepted, we're going to own the property. What questions do you have for me about this?
None so far.
Okay, great. So Nolan, tell me about your ideal home. What's it look like?
So my wife and I were envisioning at least 3 bedrooms.
3 bedrooms. That's a great. So why is 3 bedrooms important to you?
Well, we've got 1 daughter already.
Sure.
And in the next couple of years, probably another coming.
Sure. So would 3 bedrooms be optimal, or should we be looking at 4-bedroom houses?
We're going to say 3.
Okay, great. Tell me more about the house.
We'd like it to be 2 stories.
2-story.
We don't like the Rambler look.
Sure.
Also a big backyard with a fence. We've got a couple of dogs, so
Okay.
a fence is really important to us.
Sure. Couple questions for you. When you say big backyard, what do you mean? If I grew up in the rural Roy Y area, big backyard might be 5 acres. To you, a big backyard might be the postage stamp. How big is a big backyard?
So it has to be at least half an acre or so.
Half an acre, sure. And why is that important?
Just our dogs.
Sure. So most importantly, if there's a big fenced area for the dogs to run, you're okay. So you're not so particular on the size as long as there's a large enough area for the dogs to run.
Right.
Okay, great. That gives me a good visual. And you said 2-story because you didn't like the look of a Rambler. What is it about a 2-story that's so appealing?
Just where I grew up, that's all the homes that I grew up in, and it's really just what I like.
Mm-hmm. Is it that there's a separate living area, a bonus room? Is it that the bedrooms are on one floor, not the other? Is there anything in particular?
Yeah, I guess now that I think of it, I do like how there's a common living area downstairs, and then upstairs you can have the bedroom separated from the kitchen and the living room.
Well, let me just ask you, Nolan. Of course, we want to get you the right house that fits your needs. But if we were to find a 1-story house that had a separate living area in the back that was different than the common area, would you consider it? Or you're saying, Andy, only show me 2-story homes?
No, I guess if it did have a separate living area, that'd be fine.
Okay. Because what we see a lot of times is a house will have an addition onto it or the back of it, or they'll convert the garage and then add a second garage. So as long as there's multiple living areas, you're amenable to looking at it.
Yes.
Okay, that's great. Now, a really important one. What's now that you've spoken with a mortgage lender of choice, what's the ideal payment we're hoping to stay around?
We're trying to stay under $2,600.
Under $2,600. And did he or she give that to you in a purchase price amount?
He did. I don't remember it. I probably have it in an email.
Okay, because as you know, depending on where we end up, our property tax, so a $300,000 home might have a higher payment depending on the area it is because of property tax and homeowner's insurance. And so, was it safe to say he said around $350,000? Is that the approximate range?
It was the approximate. I just like to be specific.
Yes, you do. $350,000. In fact, what I'm going to do right after this consult is I'm going to email him personally so that I can have that in writing also, so we can all be on the same page. Would that be a good idea?
That would work.
Okay. So $350,000, outstanding. Anything else about the house that's important to you? How important are school districts?
School districts are pretty important. However, I'm not very familiar with the school districts here.
Sure. What can I do to help make you more informed?
Probably if you just shot me a pamphlet or just at least pointed me in the right direction of where I can look up the information.
Okay. Great. I'm going to, I have a great search I'm going to do. I won't be able to get to it tonight, but I'll make sure you have it by 3 p.m. tomorrow. Just kind of updates you a little bit of information on each of the school districts in the area. Would that be helpful?
That would be really helpful.
Outstanding. So tell me about 10 more items. So let's just say I have a list of 20 items here now, Nolan.
Okay.
What we need to do, Nolan, is narrow this list of 25 items down to a top 5 must-have. I know it sounds like a daunting task. It's going to be challenging enough to find a right home, the right price point, the right school district, let alone with all these other ancillaries. Of course, we want the ancillaries, but what are the top 5 non-negotiables?
The first one would probably be size.
Size. What's that?
Making sure we have the 3 bedrooms and at least 3,000 square feet.
Okay. Outstanding. What else?
Second one would be that separate living area.
Separate living area. That's a great one.
That's important to us.
It's going to be amazing.
Third, the school district.
School district's important to you, of course.
4, the area for the dogs to play in, so
adequate backyard.
Big backyard.
Okay.
And 5, we would like to have at least a 2-car garage.
2-car garage. Share with me what's so important about the 2-car garage. Or do you work with tools? Is it just for the cars? Extra storage?
It's mainly just for the cars, not so much a shop.
Okay. So when you say 2-car garage, you're really looking for a place to park 2 cars. Would a carport work, or does it need to be a garage?
No, we would like it to be a garage.
Okay.
With a door and everything.
Okay. And so you're not big into tools, or you don't work on your cars. It's not like we need to find a detached shop or anything of that nature.
No.
Okay. Great. Great. This is a very doable top 5. I can do this. Nolan, I have a favor to ask. If I ever send you a house and it doesn't have at least 4 of the top 5 must-haves, if it's not in your local area, if it doesn't have the 2-car garage, if it just doesn't have at least 4 of the top 5 must-haves, I want to give you my full permission to say, Andy, why are you sending me this house? It doesn't fit at least 4 of the top 5 must-haves. We're not going to see it. Can I give you that permission?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Do that.
Outstanding. On the converse of that, if you ever send me a home and it doesn't have at least 4 of the top 5 must-haves, maybe it's out of the area or it has 4 stories or whatever, do I have your permission to say, Nolan, we're not going to go see this house. It doesn't have 4 of the 5 must-haves. Is that fair?
That is fair.
Great. I think we can find this house. Now, Nolan, what I consider to be 10 plus excellent service might not necessarily be what you consider to be 10 plus customer service. I want to make sure I'm delivering service to the quality that you've come to expect. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most important, how important are the following?
Okay.
I will always respect your time and try to accommodate you.
10.
10, outstanding. I will respond to your phone calls or emails as quickly as possible.
10.
Sure. Nolan, what this tells me is that you're a serious buyer looking to buy in the next 1 to 3 weeks. Is that correct?
It is.
Because you and I can both agree, all of my clients deserve to have top 10 service. However, if we're looking to buy 4 to 6 months out, it is imperative that I get back to you. It's just not so imperative that I get back to you that same day. Because the reality of it is, any home that you're sending me when we're 4 to 6 months out is going to be long and sold before we go look at it, correct?
I guess so.
Okay, so I expect anytime I get back to you, or if I send you information on a home, that you too are going to reciprocate and get back to me right away. Is that a fair ask?
It is.
Okay. I will discuss the benefits and drawbacks of each home in relation to your needs.
7.
7. Is that because you're an informed buyer and you would like to do some of the research on your own?
We would.
Sure. The last thing I want to do is get in the way of you and your process. However, I want to be an advocate for you. So if you ever feel that I'm not providing enough adequate information, just know it's because I want to respect your wish to do some research on your own. I too will have information. You just let me know and we'll compare. Especially when it comes down to probably doing a market analysis. We'll definitely compare notes at that point. I will always be honest with you, even when I have information that you may not want to hear.
10.
10. I got to tell you, Nolan, there's been a time or two where a client has been sold on a house and I did everything I could to share with them the value of why they shouldn't buy it. At the end of the day, they just didn't want to hear it. And I had to kind of step back and respect that process. I just need you to know now that if I ever tell you something that you don't really like or doesn't make you feel very comfortable, you have to know it's because I'm telling you the truth. Okay?
Okay.
I'll help you compare homes and make a decision.
Probably a 6.
Okay? Again, is that because you're pretty informed?
Yes.
Outstanding. I will educate you on the contract and all of its terms.
10.
10. One thing I do know, Nolan, is I know the contract inside and out. I would love to make you as informed. In fact, if you like, I can send you home with an unedited copy now so that you can read up on it. So when the time does come for us to submit an offer, you're as informed as I am. Would that be helpful?
That would.
Great, great. I'll coordinate and supervise the preparation of all closing documents and guide you through the closing process.
9.
Okay. Of course I will. Preferred vendors, escrow and title officers that we have a relationship with. And finally, I will refer you to proven professionals throughout the entire process.
9.
9. Okay. Now, Nolan, this is an important question. It might be something that sounds kind of odd to you. How do I lose with you?
You could lose with us by not communicating with us.
Not communicating properly.
If I don't hear from you every couple of days at least, that's how you lose.
Okay. How else do I lose with you?
Being late.
Sure. Being late is a pet peeve of mine as well. I tell you what, it's my full anticipation to be early to every appointment so I can have the lights on and anything coordinated. If, however, ever do show up late, I will apologize profusely, and I ask that you just give me one chance to make things right. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Okay. Nolan, I think we'll work great together.
I think so too, Andy.
Is there any questions that I didn't answer for you?
I'm still wondering about commissions.
Outstanding, great question. So my commission has already been preset, predetermined by the seller. And so it's not as if I get a higher or better commission by getting you to pay more. It's already been negotiated into the price. So you don't pay me a penny. In fact, if I don't give you outstanding 10 plus customer service, I won't make a penny because I won't sell you a house.
So I really don't pay you anything?
Nope, nothing, not at all. It's been commissioned, predetermined by the seller.
Wow.
All right, Nolan. This is a buyer's agency agreement. This says that I have the exclusive right to help you buy a home. I'm going to have you initial on the first page and sign on the second.
Okay.
Outstanding. The last exercise that I want to share with you before we go, now that you're my client, is how we can best negotiate for a home. So let's jump online.
Perfect.
So that was the actual buyer's consultation. It might have seemed a little over the top. It's not. In fact, if you read along with the script work, it's pretty much how a consult goes. I want to now just kind of spend 15 minutes unpacking what it is I said, why I said it, and kind of go through some of those CAPTCHA points that are really going to help you execute and show better at buyer's consults. So the first thing I do is I sit down and say, hey, we're going to spend the first 15, 20 minutes answering your questions. I find out what their questions are, and then most of the time I don't answer them. You see, I want them to feel validated and heard. Most times they're not going to have any questions. The ones that do have the questions, what do you think their disc profile is? It's the C's, it's the S's, the high I's didn't even come prepared. And if anything, they came with some homes they wanted to see. Sometimes your C's are going to come in, they're going to have 15 to 20 homes with them. And that's when you're like, they want to get online and do research right there. Well, you got to steer them away from it. That's why I want to control when questions get answered. So I just jot them down. Writing down someone's questions makes them feel validated and heard. And then I say, at the end of it, we're going to decide if we're going to be a good fit for another. What I want to kind of help a client know right away is there's clients that I'm not going to work with. This isn't a one-sided street. They're not the ones that are just choosing if I'm going to work with them or if they're going to work with me. I'm also deciding if they're the right client fit for me. So I want this interview process to go both ways. Next, I kind of set Nolan up. He is a CS, but more importantly, I want to find out what their disc profile is. That's why I say things like, if I were to give you this packet which explains what I'm covering with you today, would you read it? See, an S is going to say, well, an S may or may not read it, and I certainly won't. I'm trying to get a feel for who it is I'm dealing with. If it's a couple, if it's a married couple, what I typically say is, which one of you is the reader? And they're going to say, I am. Great. That's for you. All right. Here is the Law of Real Estate Agency. If I were to give this to you, would either of you really read it? And both of them are kind of, one's going to go, I will, and the other one's going to go, he will. Good. It's helping you kind of understand the disc profile of who you're dealing with. You want to know how to cater the interview. It's also going to help you kind of decide who's the quote-unquote, like they might both be equal decision makers, but one of them is kind of like the boss of the meeting. You know, like when you go on a car lot, when I go on a car lot, my wife is the boss of the meeting. She's actually the better negotiator. And so we both know when it comes time to negotiate, it's all her. And so you kind of want to figure out who's the one that's kind of steering the direction they're going. That's why I give them these tchotchkes. Same with the glossary of real estate terms. If I feel like I have a client that's a high C, well then I just want to say things that cater to their personality. If I know the client's a high I, and it's both of them right off the charts, I'm not going to go into explicit detail about the words that are used. I'm going to know right away they don't care. The home purchasing process. This is the first important piece of flair. In fact, we're going to test you on this to make sure you know it adequately, the way I deliver it. And this is why. Select a real estate agent. Good job. I think you chose wisely. You see, already we're beginning to own them as our client. Obtain financial pre-approval. That's what you're doing with the mortgage broker of choice. Analyze your needs in a buyer's consult, where we sit down. We're going to say, let's pay X. They're going to say Y. We're all going to agree to the terms of Z. And I like to say, take this piece of paper home. Put it on your refrigerator. In fact, I'm going to put a big asterisk here. You see, we're not committed to the property when we write up an offer. Heck, we're not even committed when we get the offer accepted. Based on the terms of the inspection contingency, we have 10 days to walk away for any reason. That's why I expect we're going to put offers in that very first day. If you say that in a buyer's consultation, there is no fear or there is no pushy salesmanship to it when you're actually 2 weeks later in that house. The worst thing that can happen is that 2 weeks from now, you're in that house. That house that is the perfect fit. That house that's going to have 9 other offers on it if you don't get your offer in now. And if you say something like, we have to rush back to the office and put an offer in, they're going to say, whoa, we don't want a pushy salesman. What you want to have happen is that 2 weeks from now, when this is the perfect hit, outstanding, let's go back to the office and write it up. They're going to say, I don't know, it just feels so quick. You want to be able to say, do you remember 2 weeks ago at the buyer's consultation when I explained that we weren't committed to a property whatsoever when we submitted an offer? Heck, we weren't even committed when they accepted the offer. Do you remember that? Yeah, I think we do. Outstanding. That's why it's imperative that we get an offer in now. We just want to take the ticket. Remember, we're going to spend the next 10 days seeing if we can find something better. But if you don't explain this in the buyer's consultation, if you don't have this as a point of reference, do you remember 2 weeks ago when we did the buyer's consult? They're just going to see you as a pushy salesman. This is the number one tool we use to get someone from where average showing of 15 to 16 homes down to showing a client 3 to 4 homes. They just kind of come with that expectation that you're going to write an offer up. Second part, why this paper is so important. I have had agents that, not on our team, but I have heard other agents do buyer's consults that lasted 90 minutes, an hour and a half to 2 hours. I guess 90 minutes is an hour and a half, 2 hours long. And I think what a poor, horrible experience that was for the consumer. Now, I'll have a consult that might go an hour, maybe an hour and a half, but that's only because the client wanted it to be that way. Never because I just wanted to hear myself talk. I went to go visit a financial advisor when we were choosing one, and they spoke for the better part of an hour, just filling my head with nonsense. And really all I wanted to know was about a 1031 exchange. They spent so little time asking me questions, so much time just kind of talking out their neck. It was a horrible experience. We don't want the same thing to happen here. So what I typically say is after we say accept offer, we have 10 days to walk away for any reason. If all goes well, 30 days later we'll own the home. What questions do you have for me? Well, a high C personality or a high S personality is going to have a lot of questions about the inspections, the credit, the underwriting, the appraisal, the survey, encumbrances. Perfect. Answer them when they ask. Don't just go off on a long monologue soliloquy about all the Lordy McKnowledge mixin you know. It's just going to bore them and not going to win you any points. So this is an important sheet to actually have on the kind of verbatim. The next part. I want to know from them what their next home is. You see, they have spent the better part of 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years dreaming and talking about this house with all their friends and family and coworkers. They've been boring people ad nauseum talking about a house. Well, you know, the number one way to get someone to like you is ask them questions about themselves. So just start asking them questions about the house they want to buy. Just get them talking about it and take great notes. You'll see a lot of times when Nolan would answer a question. After every time he did, I'd say, he wanted a 2-story house. I said, why is that important to you? Clients don't know that they're not always telling you the truth. He thought he wanted a 2-bedroom house because he liked it the best. When I asked him some good questions, it turns out the reason he really liked a 2-story house is because it had 2 separate living areas. Well, great. I don't want to shoot myself in the foot only having to find this guy 2-bedroom houses when the root of it is he really just wants 2 separate living areas. Frequently, this is the case. I can't say a couple times. Another time that I had a client tell me that they wanted a garage. They wanted a big shop, and I got to the root of why it was. Well, in our price point, we weren't finding a 2-bedroom, large garage. Well, the root of it is that his wife was a scrapbooker, and he wanted her to have a space to scrapbook. And in his mind, the only space they could have was in the back of a garage, and so they wanted two plus car garage plus a little shop area. Well, we ended up finding a house. It was a cute little 2-bedroom house that had an open area upstairs. It was the perfect size for her craft room. But you're not going to know that if you don't start to ask great questions. Another question to always ask is when they say they want a big backyard, what's a big backyard mean to you? Is it a postage stamp or is it 17 acres? If they say they want 17 acres, a follow-up question is, why is that so important to you? Is that because you want privacy or you're going to use the property for recreational purposes? 9 times out of 10, they just want privacy and they don't know how big 17 acres really is. So if we find you a house that doesn't have a view of the neighbors, that feels secluded, would that be adequate for you? Yeah, that would. You got to ask great questions. Now, if their purchase price is $250,000, The only thing you're trying to do is get them financeable. You don't want to ask them if they want travertine tile if their price point is $250,000. But let's say their price point's at a point where they can be flexible. They can go up to $400,000. Well, that's when you're going to get a little more specific. Now, do you want an open concept kitchen or do you want formal dining room? Do you want a master ensuite? I mean, that's when you just get to ask them more questions. Don't draw it out. Pay attention to their eyes. When they start to glaze over, you should move on too. But ask them some great questions, and then you narrow that list down to top 5. When you have a list of top 5, you have fuel, you have ammunition, you have the ability to help direct them and steer them. If you don't narrow them down to some top 5 must-haves, you have no idea what you're shooting for when you're looking at homes. I mean, it could be as off the walls, the paint color could change it. But when you get their top 5, they're going to start to send you homes that aren't in that top 5 because they don't know any better. They're going to send you homes out in Roy Y and Ording and Puyallup when they said they had to be in University Place. You have to do 2 things. You either have to go show them those houses knowing there's no way they're going to write them up because you feel obligated to, or you're going to say, wait a minute, was that part of your top 5? No. Has your top 5 changed? No. Then we're not going to go see this house. Because remember when I gave you my permission that if I ever sent you a house that didn't fit, we weren't going to go see it? Mm-hmm. Remember when you gave me your permission that if you ever sent me a house that didn't fit your top 5, we weren't going to go see it? Mm-hmm. Okay, has your top 5 changed? Nope. All right, then we're not going to go see it. So important that you narrow that down because otherwise you can only tell a client no so many times. You want to help condition them to only look at homes that have top 4 or 5. They're going to find a house and it's going to be $50,000 overpriced but has a really cool backyard, so they're going to want to go see it. And you're their realtor, so they're going to send it to you. Well, if it's not in their top 5, then they're going to know better than to send it to you. Do you see why it's so important to narrow them down to a top 5? Once you narrow them down to the top 5, you're always very affirming. That's great. I really like that. Oh, that's going to be beautiful. You've got to be very affirming in your praise of their house. And then I go right into what you consider to be top 10 service might not necessarily be what I consider top 10 service. These first 2 questions are to promote a sense of urgency. I'll always respect your time and try to accommodate. I'll be quick. If they're saying 5, 6, and 7, but they need to buy in the next 1 to 3 months, they don't understand how urgent they need to be right now. They don't even understand that they need to take time off from work to go see a house so they want to get into it. Now, if they say it's 5, 6, or 7, but they're not looking to buy for 4 to 6 months, then they also need to understand that you're not going to get back to them within minutes or hours even, or even days sometimes. It's important that you stay in contact every couple of days, but it's not as imperative that you get back to them right away. Think about if you have a high D client that's 6 months out that expects you to respond immediately every time he sends you something. You're going to lose favor with them no matter how hard you try within a couple of weeks, maybe even months, and they're going to fire you and hire someone else. So you got to condition them. It's imperative they get back to you. It's just not as imperative that they get back to you that same hour, is it? Maybe not even that same day. So these questions are all to help gauge their motivation. And then how do I lose with you? This is a phenomenal question. No one asks it. It's just a great one to have. They're going to tell you, and I want you to feel it. You can be pushy. They don't want an agent that's pushy. I hear that. Yeah, it sounds like some experience you had in the past was not very polite. Yeah, no, it wasn't. Great. Yeah, I can respect that. We're going to work well together. The next thing for us to do is to sign a buyer's agency agreement. This just says you give me the exclusive right to help you buy a house for the next 1 to 3 months, 3 to 4 months, 4 to 6 months. Initial on the first page, sign a date on the second. If you don't feel ready to go with the buyer's consult, then you start off with this. Okay, before we sign paperwork, here's the inspector referral disclosure. Washington State law just requires that I get you an initial. This says that I didn't refer an inspector to you. If you get them in the habit of signing and initialing paper, then it's going to be much easier for you to put the buyer's consult in front of them. This is call before you know that this is Washington State law requires that I recommend you have the property sewer scoped. So I encourage you to sewer scope the property before you buy it. Just initial that. This is an agency disclosure. This just says that I work for you. I don't represent the seller in any home. Washington State law requires that I provide you with this information. And this is a buyer's agency agreement. It says that you give me the exclusive right to sell you a home for the next 4 to 6 months. Initial here and sign there. If you confidently and competently put the agency agreement in front of them, they're going to sign it 8 out of 10 times. Occasionally, they won't. And the reason they're not, it's going to be for 1 of 2 reasons. One of them is they said, well, we were told not to sign anything, not to commit to working with anybody. And this was your response. Okay, great, yeah. Why is it so important to you that you don't sign anything or commit to working with anybody? They're going to give you some reason about being ripped off or not being committed. Okay, sure. And when you go to buy a house, are you going to sign paperwork? So this is just the first step. You see, fortunately, I am so busy that I get to choose who my clients are. Thank you, Lord. And I only work with clients who are as committed to me as I am to them. So if I'm going to work with you and I'm going to work hard for you, if I'm going to take time away from my loved ones and my family, time that I otherwise would have spent with them to serve your needs, I just got to know that you're as committed to me as I am to you. So initial here and sign on the second page. If I ever do anything to lose your favor, I ask that you give me one chance to make it up. And if I can't make it up, you just call my designated broker at Keller Williams. They're not going to let their reputation be tarnished because I dropped the ball. Initial here and sign on the second page. If they still won't sign, this is what I say. And if it's a client I want to work with, I've had clients who say they're not going to sign, and I'm like, good, I don't want to work with you. Let's just say it's a client you think you want to work with, and they're just not ready to sign. Okay, guys. Tell you what, we're going to go on one tour. We'll look at 3 homes together, just so you and I can get a feel for how we work together. If at the end of that tour, you just need to know I'm still going to ask you to sign this paperwork. And if at that point you're not ready to sign, I'm going to wish you well, and you can go work with whoever you want. How does that sound? Great. So that's the buyer's consultation. If you get through that, you have done more. Do you know it's shocking how few real estate agents actually do buyer's consultations? You're going to be light years ahead of your competition if you can just adequately and expertly answer those questions. If they ever ask you a question and you jot it down and you actually don't know the answer to it, you just say, that's a great question. You know, I want to make sure none of the regulations have changed. I'm going to get this answered back to you today by 5. How's that sound? So that's the buyer's consult. Next, what I'm going to do is show you how to best negotiate and list price versus sell price on the computer. Okay, guys.